to Recoup. Today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. This is our Monday weekly check-in where we talk about what we're working on this week. Today, I think I'd like us to focus on getting prepared for the Alexis call, unless there's something else you want to talk about or focus on for today.
No, let's do it.
Cool. So for the Alexis call, the goal is going to be to enable Pulse and get her to run a sandbox. I'm still working through getting a good onboarding flow to work. So I think for today, we should focus on having her just enable the checkbox for Pulse. So that way tomorrow the Pulse starts running for her, and giving her a hard-coded prompt in the call. And I think you and I should test that prompt during this call to make sure that it works. And then if we get that to work, talk about what state the current onboarding is at and work through it, unless there's other things that you want to talk about after we do that. If there's nothing else, can you share screen and go over to sandboxes, and I'll have you delete your sandbox, and then we'll use you as the example of what Alexis will be experiencing. We got your screen. Okay, so we can see your orgs here. Can you go ahead and delete your sandbox? So now you are fresh in the same state as Alexis. Can you go back to chat? And from here, we're going to type out a prompt that says, we want to run the long form sandbox that you don't like, and we're going to give it an explicit prompt to not pull, so that way we don't accidentally hit that error state that you don't like, or that not the error state, but the polling state. So I'm asking Claude right now what the tools are so that I can remember it. I think it's execute sandbox prompts. It is run sandbox command. So can you say, please run the run sandbox command tool with the prompt, what files do I have? Do not pull for success. Just start the task.
Say it one more time. Please run sandbox command tool.
With the prompt, what files do I have? Or whatever prompt you want Alexis to have run after it gets set up.
Is that good?
Do not pull. You don't want it to pull, right?
Yeah.
That looks good. Excellent. Cool. So now that's running, and that should get it all up and running. So while that's running, we can just sit here and we can watch it, or you can click on the top of the tool and it'll open up the task for us to monitor it. It's the exact same thing. It's just where you want to watch it. Here so this will be how we start the call with Alexis. We'll send her that prompt and say, to start, can you just send this prompt? And then we'll continue to talk to her while this is running in the background. We're still waiting for logs, so let's see if this even works or if it crashes. Okay, it says okay, cool. There we go, connected to Sandbox. Okay, so it's going for you. Where I'm currently at with onboarding is the question is, how do we make it so that Alexis does not need to give a hard-coded prompt? How do we just get it to work on its own? The path I've been going down right now is we want to lean towards the prompt sandbox tool, the one that you like, that does not run it as a background task, but runs it live in the API. I so far have duplicated the logic that we have in the task and put it inside of our API. The blocker right now is that the amount of time that it takes to run that is longer than Vercel's API will run. And so that was the blocker I hit about 5 minutes ago, is that I was testing it and it was finally working, but then it timed out, which is again why we put it as a background, why we do things as background tasks originally. And then I use that as a chance to say, can we use this in workflow.dev so that way it stays in Vercel and it does automatic retries? And so Claude just pushed a version to my preview branch of using use workflow. I have no idea if it's going to work or not. An alternative is we just check and then we run this tool, which already exists and runs it as a background task if the sandbox is not set up. And if the sandbox is set up, then run the task that we do have. I think the lowest lift is just do that. We already have this task that works as a background task. We don't have to worry about trying to support use workflow. And we just keep it as is and have a simple check. If the sandbox is set up, run the tool that Sid prefers. If not, use this tool that works and runs it as a background task. What are your thoughts on what the ideal architecture is for end customer experience?
For the chat UI, the ideal experience is as fast as possible with as much updates so the user can see what is going on. When I say updates, I just mean like my frame of reference for a user is sitting in front of their computer working with AI is cursor. The cursor chat is the perfect example of a reference of you can see what's going on. Not in front of the computer, chat UI, a la email or any other clients that we set up that are not chat focused. I do not think it's required to be as interactive with the user, because that is not the expectation that the user has when they're sending an email or sending a text message or a Slack. The expectation is completely different. So I guess that's my big thought of when it comes to experience for the customers is when the customer is accessing our tooling from this place, from the chat, their entire perspective is this as fast and as good as ChatGPT? Like, that's it. They don't care about anything else. If it's not, then their feeling is, I'm just going to go to ChatGPT. This is taking forever, or this is confusing, or whatever. So I guess I say all of that to say it sounds like you're on the right path. And I think we're just going to have to continue to iterate with the customer to see what their perspective is around expectations dependent on the client that they're using. If that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
The same question still remains of, do we run it as a task, what you're looking at right now, or do we run it in inline API that requires them to maintain the connection? Because if you close your computer while you're working on Claude or Cursor, it stops working. Same thing if they're accessing it from a chat web page and then they close that tab or they redirect somewhere else, it stops working. The exact same thing. The good part about a background task in trigger.dev is it's running in as a background task. You leave, do whatever you want, you start a new chat, and it continues to work for you. But if your ideal is when this process finishes, the same conversation continues and someone's sitting there and watching the web UI, then it needs to be that persistent API. And then we should go in to use workflow.dev. So far, you've made it seem like people do not sit here and they do click around, which makes me think trigger.dev is better. But you're also saying that you do expect people to sit there like to do with cursor and just leave the tab open. So I'm hearing conflicting experiences, and I would just like to know which one you want me to be building towards. I prefer background tasks in email. I would prefer Alexis doesn't send this prompt in chat, but she does it from her email because that's where she spends most time. But it seems like you like people going to our web UI and doing stuff.
It's not that I like people going to our web UI suites. It's that I can't force the customer to do what I want. So it's incredibly difficult for me to change a behavior of a customer. And that's my big, like, we can build the email thing. We should build the email thing. It should work there. That's not going to stop our customer from going to a UI on our website if they want to work faster than like go back and forth with an email. You know, like if, for example, I go to the UI in the email when I want to sit down. Let me give you an example. If I want to not just update things to my files, but I want to like create things. I want to save this stuff to my files, but now make something else with it, and no, edit this, no, do that. Like that requires me to not communicate via email, right? It's like a faster paced sense of working. But if I'm in my email and I'm like, hey, what's the latest on this update? Or hey, take all of this data and put it into my file. Like that's very powerful. So I guess I agree with you with background tasks. The background tasks should work. If there's a way that we can make the background tasks working while the customer can still also like iterate on the side of our shit or in the UI, that would be incredible.
That's exactly how it works right now. What's the difference between how it works right now and what you're describing? If you go back to that same chat you were in, you can continue the conversation or do whatever you want. And you can continue to see in the same, go back to that conversation. And we're also about to be late for our meeting.
Yeah, we can jump to it.
Like you can sit here and now you can continue the conversation. And at any point you can scroll back up and you can see that that background task is still running in the web UI component right above. Scroll up. It's still running the sandbox. It's still showing you the UI from above, and you can continue to do whatever you want.
Okay, I agree with you on this then. Then maybe what the issue is just the UI needs to be clearer and we can define what that looks like later. But I think you might, I see what you're saying. Is if we can make it clear to the customer that like, this is happening in the background and you can now ask me to do other things, blah, 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 but this is still going. I'll ping you when it's done. I think that solves the problem.
Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you on Wednesday.